Good day, everyone. So, welcome to my class, and this is a video lesson about the process of communication and its elements. At the end of this lesson, you are expected to identify the components of communication process and differentiate the different types of noise in communication. So, let's start. On the screen is the basic process of communication. The elements or the components of this process are sender, receiver, message, channel, noise, and feedback. So since they are part of it, these components may affect the effectivity of the communication process. Let's start defining and giving examples for each element. Let's start it with the sender. So the sender is someone who encodes and sends a message to a receiver through a particular channel. Don't forget the word encodes. And it is also defined as the initiator of communication. So communication will not happen if the sender will not initiate the whole process. So sender could be an individual, group, or organization who initiate the communication. The sender's experience, attitude, knowledge, skill, perception, and culture influence the message. And this is also to convey a message by employing combination of symbols, which can be verbal or nonverbal, as well as graphs, pictures, visuals, etc. Next would be the message. The message is a key element that is transmitted in communication. It is also defined as the content of the communication process, and this can be written, oral, symbolic, or nonverbal. So these are information conveyed by words in speech or writings and or other signs and symbols such as gestures, expressions, sounds, and even silence encoded by the sender and will be decoded by the receiver. So it's the content or the key element which is transmitted in communication. Next component is what we call channel. Channel is the medium, mean, manner, or method through which a message is sent to its intended receiver. So this also refers to the pathway through which the message travels in order to reach its destination. So for example, we have here phone calls, text messages, emails, video, radio, social media, as well as face-to-face communication. For example, if you are going to talk to someone who is far away from you, you can use phone calls, text message, emails, or any social media platforms in sending or delivering the message. And if you're just talking to someone near you, face-to-face communication can be a mean to deliver the message, either in verbal or nonverbal manner. And also, choosing the proper channel or medium is also considered to assure effective communication. Next component is what we call receiver. So receiver uh, or the listener, reader, or observer who is an individual or group of individuals to whom a message is directed. They are also called the audience or decoder. So the sender is the encoder, and then the receiver is called as the decoder. So the task of the receiver definitely is to interpret the sender's message, both verbal and non-verbal. And also, the interpretation of the message depends on the receiver's perception, the attitude, his or her experience, ideas, personality, and then knowledge. Another component of the process of communication is what we call feedback. This is the return of process which completes the loop of communication. It is essential in communication, or feedback is essential to communication, so as to know whether the recipient has understood the message in the same terms as intended by the sender and whether he agrees to that message or not. It also serves as the response and enables it enables the sender to evaluate the effectiveness of the message. So since feedback is an important factor in the process of communication, this may help the sender if there's a need of modification and remodeling of the strategy in communicating. So here are the examples. We have verbal or oral and written. So it could be a feedback. Non-verbal feedback could be through gestures, applause, thumbs up, thumbs down, emoji, if you're using Messenger, and also silence. Okay, silence could also be considered as feedback or a response. Next, the Okay. Noise is an unwanted signal which interferes with the original message signal and corrupts the parameters of the message signals. So it is an interference or anything that hinders the transmission or reception of the message. Noise can be classified into two. We have the internal noise, or defined as anything that we think during the time we are engaged in communication. And the second one is what we call external noise, or it comes from outside, such as screaming of children at play, a heavy downpour, or vehicles in motion. So now let's identify the types of noises. We have the semantic, we have the syntactic, we also have the environmental. Included here is organizational noise, psychological noise, and also physiological noise or impairment, and the cultural noise. So let's try to identify the differences of these noises, and let's try to give some examples for each noise. Let's start it with semantic noise. When we say semantic noise, it refers to when a speaker and listener have different interpretations of the meaning of certain words. So, this noise is often caused by differences between the sender and receiver of information, such as age, culture, education, and experience. And this barrier may be denotative and connotative. So in a denotative barrier, the sender or the receiver disagree about the definition or meaning of a word or phrase. And for a connotative barrier, it means that a word has different meaning in a particular context. For example, the use of jargons. Jargons could be or may lead to confusions because these are words or expressions used only in a particular profession or a particular field. Another example is the word weed. It can be interpreted as an undesirable plant in a yard or as a euphemism for marijuana. Another example is the word cookies. So cookies is different from computer-related field and of course to common people. Cookies in the computer-related field, it may mean text files with small pieces that are used to identify as you use a computer network. And cookies for common person are something to eat that is sweet, tasty. So that those are examples of semantic noise. Additionally, mispronounced words, unique words are also examples of semantic noise. Next, we have the syntactic noise. When we say syntactic noise, it refers to the disruption by mistakes in grammar, such as an abrupt change in verb tense in a sentence. And the receiver may unable to accomplish the proper meaning because of grammatical flaws. For examples here, I have a statement. There are statements here that are ungrammatical. First, I was drunk when we will arrive. And then the second one, the class ended tomorrow and everyone is thrilled for this moment. So these statements are ungrammatical. And if there are ungrammatical or errors in terms of grammar, it may lead to confusion, and it will definitely ruin the effectivity or efficiency of communication. And as what I have said earlier from the example we have here, both have grammatical flaws. This instance may lead confusion to the receiver of the message. Again, that is what we call syntactic noise. This is the disruption by mistakes in grammar, such as an abrupt change in verb tense in a sentence. Next is the environmental or physical noise. This noise is referred to physically disrupt communication, such as very loud speaker at a party or the sounds from construction site near the classroom. It is defined as unwanted or harmful outdoor sound created by human activity, such as noise emitted by means of transport, road traffic, rail traffic, air traffic, and industrial activity. Next is the organizational noise. When we say organizational noise, it refers to poorly structured or vague messages. So here are the examples. The students are given tasks with vague instructions by their teacher will surely may not arrive to a comprehensive output. Indeed. And in the second example, a driver who is given unclear, badly worded instructions may be unable to figure out how to reach his destination. So to avoid this, the sender must be aware of the structure of the message. It has to be clear, concise, and precise. If we demand for success in communication, as a sender of message, we should be mindful on this part also, as well as the noises mentioned earlier. So in order to avoid again this organizational noise, we should always be mindful on our statement. It has to be structured and clear. Psychological noise. So this type of noise, this is a barrier created from the communicator's psychological factor. For example, values, his or her own beliefs, attitude, and behavior. A person's emotional state may affect the way he communicates. So this type of noise interrupts our minds to concentrate on listening. People don't like to listen or talk about those topics that make them down or not interesting. For example, if you're not interested of the topic because it's far away from what you believe in, and it's something that you're not interested to listen, and something like that, therefore it will affect on the process of communication. For example, if someone is uh, preoccupied with problems, the person may be inattentive at a team meeting. I believe it does happen to us also. When we think of many things, sometimes overthinking, we tend not to have focus on what we are listening. When we are angry, happy, sad, and brokenhearted, etc., it will affect the way we communicate. So those are examples of uh, psychological noise. Next one is what we call physiological noise. This is a barrier created by the communicator's physical condition. physical illness, and weakness. So this hinder to effective communication. For example, uh, deafness, blindness, and headaches could also be a barrier to effective communication. When someone has a headache, he cannot concentrate as he listens to someone who is speaking, right? So I think you already experienced that one when you're not feeling well, you're not focused uh, on the lesson, or you're not focused on listening to the topic of the teacher because of what you feel. You're not feeling well. Deafness and blindness are physical weakness that may affect the communication, and it will interfere with the reception of the message. Another example is when someone is talking too fast or slow. And another also, the high or low of temperature in the room also generate physiological noise. And the last one is what we call cultural noise. So differences in culture may interfere with the cross-cultural understanding. Examples of this one are ethnocentrism, prejudices, stereotypes, and discrimination. We all know that each culture has its own rules about proper behavior, which affect verbal and nonverbal communication. Someone's practices may be different from the others. For example, some people yell, shout, and talk with each other in a loud manner that can be misinterpreted by other cultures as an altercation or fighting. So we live in a world with diverse culture and norms. We can avoid misunderstanding if we value respect to different practices. Actually, this kind of communication or interaction, whenever you have the chance to communicate to someone who has different culture from you, we should always take it as an opportunity to learn from someone's culture. All right, so those are the processes, the components, and some examples of the components of the communication. So I hope you learned something from this video. Thank you so much and have a good day.